Hi everyone. We are back. Welcome to the Director's Desk. I'm your host, Catherine Bell, and I'm with my wonderful colleague today.
Bina Hale.
Today, so we've got, well, actually, I should do a little bit of an intro. You probably know us by now, I hope if you
so.
have listened and,
Yes.
liked and commented. But Bina and I head up the Director's Desk, and we have years and years of experience in talent acquisition, employer brand, sales. I'm saying sales now because that is a key trait of ours. Workforce strategy, strategic workforce planning as well, which obviously aligns both globally and in the UK. And we want to really showcase some thought leadership to you in the way of this, in terms of focusing on key things that probably cross your mind on a day-to-day basis or get put on your desk. So we hope that actually, especially this topic today, probably does resonate with you, especially if you are a parent, I am saying, because this resonates with Bina and I. And the podcast today that we are delving into is Everyone's a Winner. And I feel like breaking out into song, which I will do.
Oh, please don't.
Everyone's a winner, baby. So the societal impact of over encouragement. And I think this is probably, for me, this isn't just, obviously it's a home piece, but also in the workplace as well. This is...
Well, it's had an impact,
It
hasn't it?
has.
And I think for me, I was very keen for us to look at this topic as you
Yeah.
were, because I think the behaviours, probably not our generation, because I'm not sure it was around in our generation. It's something that's happened since. This idea of everyone's a winner has impacted the individuals now in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
This is stemmed from their... I mean, it's a great theory, right? Everyone's a winner in life. You all participate, you all get a medal. But that is not the reality once you leave school. And I think it has damaged... We'll go through some research. And I strongly believe it's damaged a lot of individuals' mental health, which we're now seeing impacting the workplace. And I think it needs to stop, or it needs to be reined back. And obviously, Catherine, my two children, Scarlett and William, 10 and 8. I know your daughter's a similar age. I see this when I go into schools right now. And I thought that's why I was very keen to have a chat about it today.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, in terms of everyone's a winner, what we mean by that is that every child gets the same level of recognition.
Yes.
So,
regardless of the effort,
regardless of the achievement.
Yeah.
And I think while obviously the intention is to boost self-esteem, we have got evidence, we've got some facts here today that actually there are longer term connotations with it that can affect anxiety. We've talked about skills in the workplace. How is that affecting resilience, for
Absolutely.
example?
And it is, the point that participation... So what they're being taught is participation is enough to get praise. And the reality is, when you're in the workplace, that doesn't work. So they're not getting the praise. So it's causing all sorts of issues. So let's dive into this in a bit more detail.
So I've got a fact here. So according to a 2022 survey by the National Association of School Psychologists, 70% of educators believe that a focus on self-esteem over achievement has negatively impacted students and affected their prep for real world challenges. And I think that's what we were alluding to earlier.
That's what we were just saying.
Yeah.
And it has.
Yeah.
And I understand, and I've read a bit about, why it's being done. It's to increase self-esteem.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things.
That's where it comes
yeah,
from.
and I know we want to talk about sports, but I think there's that piece, and then also parental. So I think there's a big piece around how parents are bringing up their kids as well. But I think that has to go, hand in hand with the school. you know, with schools as well.
So the influences from schools and influencing from parenting styles.
It has to be the same, because that's going to have a knock-on effect on the child. Thinking, well, hang on, there's no consistency.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just got to, as soon as you said that, I was just thinking of sports days. The sports day last year.
Oh God, I was screaming.
I was the only parent screaming as well. You're not. You're meant to encourage.
No, you're not allowed.
But
I got looked at.
I know I do. It's like, hang on a minute. They're all racing. You know, some children are coming first, but they're all getting a medal. And it's bizarre. But yes, you're not encouraged to shout and cheer. I do. You do. But it is. It's just. Yeah. It's. Sports day is always interesting. I'm there going, come on, and encouraging whoever's won and congratulating them. But it's they all get stickers, they all get medals.
Yeah.
But my children obviously go around going, right, I got 4 firsts, 4 seconds, or whatever. And I think that should be encouraged.
Well, it's the houses as well. You know, like houses. So I think Coco's house, they're winning at the moment. I saw it, I'm like, oh, you're winning. Yeah, we're winning. Yeah. We're the best. And I'm like, come on.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's good. And that probably, I mean, at her school, that is encouraged. So levels of competitiveness. But I do think that actually that's only one pocket.
Yes. And there's also pieces around, you know, a friend of mine got a letter through recently from school. It was dress down day, and we were discussing this recently, and it was dress down day. It was like a you know, a casual day, dress down day for the children. So at first a letter or an email went out saying you can only come in slippers, and then a couple of days before another note went out going, oh, we've actually reconsidered this. We were only considering slippers to support the children who struggle with too many changes. But now we think you can wear what you want. And I have no issue supporting the minority, but it does feel like, and I do think this is linked to what we're discussing, so hopefully I'm not going off piece.
No,
we're catering constantly for the minority. I'm not saying the minority should be disregarded, but for the competitive children that want to play sports, the individuals at school, you know, why are we constantly catering for the minority and making the majority think there's something wrong with how they're learning and what they're doing?
Yeah, I think on that particular example, I think there's a way of creating a level playing field, and that's obviously what we do. You know, in work, we create a level playing field so that everybody has, you know, the opportunity to get to where they need to be or to be successful. So I do agree with that, and I think that absolutely has to happen. You think there's neurodiversity being
absolutely
something
100%,
but I do think I mean you know, something got personal. So Coco used to be super and still is quite competitive, you know, coming out of multi-sports and doing, I got player of the day for rugby. She's always getting player of the day for rugby. And I'm like, can we do rugby? I quite like her to play rugby.
Love that. Scarlett plays football. So
I like that. I'm like, come on, let's play rugby. So we might. She's 6. So I think I'm trying to coach her into that.
Right. Let's get back to script.
we like, no, this is a really, and I think because we are both parents, we're both very, very passionate, and we've seen, you know, hardships in the workplace, and we can see it, and we do future planning, we do strategic workforce planning, so we can see, you know, what's in front of us.
So let me move on to talking about the mental health implications of what we're discussing. You know, obviously your data that you've shared already, you know, suggests that there is a negative impact. But there's growing evidence linking this mentality of building self-esteem over the reality is starting to increase, or has already increased, anxiety amongst the younger generation. We do see it at work. We see the lack of resilience, the anxiety, and I do genuinely believe it stems from these sports days, and not just the sports days, but this whole piece.
Yeah. That piece around, you're right, creating that culture of everyone wins is going to have a knock-on effect later on. And I don't know, I haven't looked too much into the evidence, so I'd love to get anyone's thoughts out there. But actually, does it increase people giving up, all right, I didn't get that promotion, or I didn't get this, or I didn't get recognised for that. I'm just going to give up.
Well, what we're seeing, aren't we, broadly in our networks and the conversations we have, is a lot more turnover in
Yes.
workplaces.
Yeah.
And I think that stems from, I've done the basics, I didn't get the role, I'm leaving. Because they're used to having that very even playing field. And if they don't get it, they'll up and leave and go somewhere else. So the turnover, I think, is impacted by this behaviour of you just need to participate and you'll be recognised.
Yes.
So I do think there's that piece there. And I think a report in 2022 from the Office of National Statistics revealed that 1 in 6 children in the UK have experienced mental health issues, including anxiety and depression. I'm not saying that's linked broadly to that, but if there's suggestions already in the data that there's, you know, a linkage already in this practice, maybe that is contributing to this piece here.
I mean, that's staggering, isn't it?
That is a really sad stat to read. It really is.
I mean, connected to that, right? So a study published by the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry.
Psychiatry?
Cut!
Psychiatry.
Psychology.
Psychiatry. So it is psychiatry.
Psychiatry, yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll start again. So a study published in the Journal of Child Psychology. Okay, so we'll start. So a study published in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry in 2003 found that children who receive excessive praise without constructive feedback are more likely to develop anxiety disorders as teenagers. Wow. And we talk about constructive feedback, don't we?
That's really powerful.
That is worrying, because we've got young kids.
Yeah, that's where my gut's been about a lot of this, that I do think, you know, I mean, sorry, mum and dad, but I didn't get a lot of praise as a kid.
No,
and I'm quite thankful now.
It's not good enough.
Nothing was ever good enough.
No.
But yeah, that is staggering. That really is. And, you know, when I speak to young adults now, they do feel, I mean, you know, in the workplace or in general, when we're networking, they feel an immense amount of pressure around succeeding.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's any more than we did, but they seem to have an immense pressure. And I don't know if that's because they have never experienced or been exposed to constructive criticism, and the idea of losing has not been part of their growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, I was heavily into sports, my children into sports. I'm a huge advocate of sports. I know some children don't like it as much, and some parents don't want to stand on the sideline. I understand, in the pouring rain. However, that sense of winning and losing that teaches you doesn't have to be football, doesn't have to be rugby. It could be joining a dance group where you're in competitions. It's the competition piece of getting them to understand that winning and losing, and okay, it's okay to lose, but if you want to win, you need to try harder next time, and then you could win.
Yeah.
But if you don't teach those children that, no wonder we see the problems that we do in the workplace around resilience, anxiety, and the pressure and not knowing when something has gone wrong, how to pick yourself up again and move on again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that whole sense of wrapping them up, putting bubble wrap around it, you know, and that will have knock-on effects later on in life. And I do believe that, and we're, you know, as I said before, we're already seeing it.
Yeah. And I'm very brutal with my children in terms of the realities of winning and losing. And, you know, I said to my youngest, who was playing recently, you know, he's like, "Mummy, if I score, will I get a tenner?" And I said, "Yeah, if you score, you'll get a tenner." He didn't score. He assisted someone to score. I went, "No." And then my husband was like, "But no, he needs to know. The reward is for the right piece. And some parents might see that that's harsh, but how do you support that learning and growth without that? And when he did score, he did get £10. He got more than £10 because he scored quite a few times. Unfortunately, it was a very expensive weekend, but it is that importance of teaching them that. And I don't know if parenting has changed. We are in a very different world. I mean, going off piece a bit, I was listening to something on the radio the other day that a lot more children are going to school who are not potty trained. You know, and I mean that's not linked to this, but has our parenting style changed so much that we just say yes or we just say no because we are under so much pressure and so much financial constraint that it's easier just to agree with our children and try and cover them in cotton wool to protect them from a lot of what's going on out there.
I do think that does happen. I know we kind of talk a lot about pandemic, etc., and things coming out of that. I mean, for me, going back to your point around the 10 review score, I personally think if he assisted,
no,
that's a 5.
It needs a goal. A goal. We don't change a goalpost.
But I think for like so with reading and pocket money and things like that. So I do something similar. If you get to this stage, we'll go to the next level of your books. That means we have to read every day. These are the things. How do I get to that?
Yes.
Right. So she knows, right, I have to do this. And we have charts. Right. Oh wow, I've gone to the next level of my reading. Brilliant. There you go. There's £5. We go, save it up. And she likes to save it up. She doesn't like to spend it straight away. She's quite good like that.
Oh, good girl.
She likes to save it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that. But yeah, the potty training thing. I mean, that I have heard, and I think maybe it is are parents scared? Does it go back to this entitlement? Is that moving? Is that becoming younger? This level of right, I'm entitled. You know, how is that changing? You know, our kids are Gen Alpha.
Yes. I mean, I did slam my brakes on when I heard that on the news when I was in the car. I was like, really? And I think the response on this particular news bulletin was, how do we support parents better? And my first reaction was like, really? It's basics. But maybe there is a gap. There's a gap that's developed in that piece. Okay, Catherine, I think we've just touched on it, you know, in a bit of detail. But let's look at, in a bit more detail, the generational thinking, because I think we've touched on that slightly around, you know, we grew up in a different generation. There was a different mindset, and failure was part of the learning process.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, in my peers of my age group, I don't see the anxiety, the worries as much. It genuinely feels like a generational thing. So something has changed between our generation and the generations that are in the workplace now, either through school or parenting or both. So what are those generational changes? It's a fact. I see it. I feel it.
Yeah.
What is that? What has changed?
Do you know what I really do feel? And I was thinking about that the other day when I needed to go and present to a huge, circa 500 people, and I thought, and I had a little bit of anxiety in me, and I thought, God, I've done this so many times, and I thought, but you know, you do it because I thought, God, so and so's in the audience, you know, I want to look good. I know this subject, and I want to talk about it. I'm really passionate about it. But then someone was saying to me that they had a situation with somebody in their team who was a lot younger, and they were like, I don't think I could ever do this. They didn't think about the growth zone. But I remember being shoved in at the deep end, and that is the growth zone, right? That's how you grow. That's how you establish that level of resilience. I do believe that. Let's look at a stat. So many older adults report that they were taught resilience through experience.
Interesting.
2022 survey by the Pew Research.
Pew.
Is it Pew? Do you know? I mean, exactly. Like,
with a street piece, I could try not to look at you. Go on.
Okay, so exactly to that point. Okay, right. do you know what, exactly to that point? So many older adults report that they were taught resilience through experience. Now, a 2022 survey by the Pew Research Centre found that 76% of older adults believe that they were better equipped to handle life's challenges compared to younger generations. Now, and I do see that. So to my example about presentations and, the growth zone.
I mean, even, as I've touched, I used to love sports. I used to play on the netball team, I used to play tennis. But again, even our generation, you took knockbacks and you picked yourself up and you tried harder. There was no giving up.
Yeah.
You wanted it and you did it.
You do.
Which is really interesting.
I mean, those experiences foster a level of resilience, right? And I think that is why I don't like talking about myself as older generations. I don't know how else to word it. I can't articulate it, but that is why we probably have that level of resilience instilled in us, and we can handle life's ups and downs a bit more.
Yes, no, absolutely. And research suggests that resilience is directly linked to better mental health outcomes. So a study in 2023 from the American Psychological Society found that individuals who experienced manageable levels of failure in childhood reported higher levels of life satisfaction in adulthood. Makes sense. Makes complete sense to me.
It does make sense, because it's about, right, okay, it's fine. You lost, you didn't get it, pick yourself up, try again.
Then you move on.
You move on, exactly. I do think we need to think about and finding the balance.
Yes, I agree.
Right. So what do you think the solution is? How do we balance, encouragement with reality?
I think it starts with I think it starts by not giving everyone a medal on sports day. I mean, it's a real bugbear of mine, and I'm sure it is of most parents. But I think it's starting the conversation that it is okay to lose. At something. You just take the learnings and you try again. I mean, my 8-year-old William, he used to hate losing, and I would sit him down and go, right. And especially where he plays competitive football. So I sit him down after a match and he'll go, Mum, that wasn't a very good match. And be like, okay, what did you think you did well?
Yeah.
What do you think you could have done better?
I like that.
William, did you think you gave the game your all? No, Mummy, I didn't. Okay. There is nothing wrong with having that conversation. And I imagine there's some parents going, oh, you're brilliant. If your kid's not brilliant, your kid's not brilliant. You got to tell them they're good or they're okay. You don't need to tell them they're rubbish. Absolutely not. But you don't tell them they're amazing when they're not. It's like, you did this well. You could have done this better. And I think it comes from developing that conversation initially. And we need to teach kids. I mean, there's a brilliant book out there. For the life of me, I can't remember who the author is, but Matthew, my husband, was reading it. But it's a philosophy, and I must bring it to the table in another podcast. It turns a lot of our thinking on the head. We're told as children, you can be anything that you want to be, which isn't a bad thing. This psychology, it's quite an old thinking, is around actually you need to work out what you're good at and focus on that, because you can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
And it's not crushing their dreams. But again, to answer your question, it's going back to having that conversation. It is okay not to be good at everything, and you may not be good at everything. Try it for a while, try something else, and understand what you're good at. But explore everything, right?
Absolutely.
But there's nothing wrong with failing.
No. And I think to your point there, when you're talking about William as well, like celebrating effort.
Yes.
I think it's celebrating effort, but actually instilling the fact that, hard work is important. So, good things don't just come to you. You have to work hard for them.
You have to work hard.
Absolutely. And it's even, small things like when you stand up in assembly and how you say, I mean, I'm terrible. And a lot of the parents say to me, Catherine, so I'm like, right, shoulders back. And it's probably because I performed, I was
Yes.
a performer. So, shoulders back, why are you playing with your plats? Went, right, that's the last time you're having plats. Absolutely no way. You're
going to chop them off.
One French plat. So nativity,
Yeah.
I've got a hairdresser coming first thing in the morning to do a French plat all the way down because I can't cope with these and like twiddling them. Doesn't look good. Don't do it, Coco. On the book thing, actually, there is something I will bring there. There's a really good book, and I will send it to you. I can't think of the author, called The Anxiety Generation. Steve's reading it at the moment.
Right.
And it was just because, obviously my daughter can get a little bit anxious, and I don't know, obviously we're going through stuff at the moment, but probably me.
You're causing the anxiety.
I'm causing the anxiety. But it is a good book, and it's focused on actually the parental piece.
Yes.
So really interesting in that competitive. Lots of sports in there as well. So I will bring that. And Bina on that. So according to 2022, lots of I'm liking this. 2022 was a big year. Article in The Guardian. Educators and psychologists advocate for a balanced approach that emphasises both encouragement and constructive criticism to build resilience in children.
Really interesting, isn't it? I mean, I've got a really good friend of mine, and I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I've got a really good friend of mine who is hugely successful. And he thanks his parents. But his parents told him as a child that he wasn't the brightest. He had 2 younger siblings, and he was always not ignored, but he was told, you're not bright enough, you're not clever enough. And I think he says to me that it created a fire in him to go, I will show you. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, and it doesn't sound like great parenting to me. And I completely agree with The Guardian about balance. But yeah, I mean, he got no praise, just got criticism. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. I think it sounds awful, but it's weird how some people, and a lot of successful people that you do see out there, and reading many biographies and conversations, have come from those backgrounds where praise has been pretty much non-existent. But I prefer The Guardian's view on that, and I think that the balance needs to be there.
Encouraging them to take risks as well. I think risk taking is important.
It's really hard, isn't it, as a parent? So hard. William's just started skateboarding. Love that. And he's also got a drift car. And I have to send Matthew out because I'm very much like, I can't watch. And I'm constantly, and I don't know if you do the same, don't fall over here, don't fall over there. I don't know if I need to stop saying that. Is that what we're saying, or we're not saying that? No, I don't think we're saying that, because that shows that level of don't fall over, care. Don't jump off that cliff. That's quite nice. That's good balance. No, you keep that. Okay, Bina, you keep that bit. Other parents maybe not, not so much. Maybe let them hurt themselves a bit. I'm like, whereas we get up, just get up. Is that what you do? Yeah. Oh, I don't. Yeah. I'm like, oh, are you okay? Especially when I coach the girls' football team, I'm constantly running on and off field every time they cry. Oh, I like to see. Gosh, I like that. I like that side of you, Bina. Yes, not a side that we often see. But I think it is that the risks in terms of actually just try. If a child is scared to, I'm going to lose, just do it. Just do it. If you lose, let's think about, to your point, what could you do better next time? Yes, that thing, asking those questions. Okay, right. So I loved that. I really did enjoy that episode. I think it's been a good conversation. I think it's a conversation a lot of us have in passing, don't we? We do. But in conclusion, while the intention might be to support our children to build their self-esteem with everyone's a winner, it clearly, from the data we've discussed, isn't having the impact we think it should be. And should we be changing the view of how we teach our children in school and how we parent, to tell them it is okay to fail, to build that resilience for when they are older and are adults, because there's clearly a link there between the two. Any last thoughts? I think going back to the piece, having that real balance between encouragement and reality. Let's set our children up to be successful and happy as well in the real world.
And I think that, because as I said before, we are seeing that we can see into the future.
Yes.
So, and I think kind of just instilling that level of resilience, giving a little bit of a competitive edge.
Absolutely, nothing wrong with a competitive edge. Lovely. Thank you so much for joining us on the Director's Desk today. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Please continue to write in, send us your ideas or comments on any of the topics. We'll speak to you soon.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.